Yunis Sadgarani, now I probably pronounced that wrong because I'm not very well educated. Would that do?
It's Yunus Sadagiani.
Sadagiani.
Yes.
I beg your pardon. Yunis, welcome to the show. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for
When I
having me.
looked down here and it said Iranian activist, I got very worried. But actually, I think reading some of the notes, you and I probably agree.
No, we definitely do. And it's funny because actually I think a lot of Iranians, they support Israel against the war with Hamas. And the reason is that majority of Iranians, they actually despise the Islamic Republic of Iran. And
how much influence does Iran, the Islamic Republic? I remember, I was on the radio when the Shah was in power. A friend of mine used to work in Iran on the radio.
Really?
And it was thought of as a great country. It was called the Paris of the East, I think.
Was.
Isn't that right?
Yeah. So Tehran was the most visited city after Paris in 1975. So it was the Dubai, what Dubai is now, Tehran used to be. And it was an extremely liberal country. We had a lot of oil money, and the revolution was caused by the British and by the Americans because of the price of oil. Jeremy Carter overthrew the Shah, and he brought Khomeini in, and we basically had 45 years of nightmare and the rise of Islamism, rise of terrorism.
How did they manage to do that? Because the majority, I've met many Iranians in my time, and they're all great. They know that none of them seem to agree. Well, probably when they get over here, they wouldn't. How did it change so much and so quickly?
Well, because, Islamic Republic of Iran is a religious theocracy.
Yeah.
And they believe in the 12 imams, so they're Shiites, they're not Sunnis. And they think that, fundamentally, I feel like it's all a game anyway. But they use religion to control the masses. So they oppress women, they oppress men. You can't have bars in Iran. Women have to wear the headscarf. They lash people.
And it was Zoroastrian originally, Iran. It was Freddie Mercury's religion, and it got taken over.
So the Arabs conquered us 1,400 years ago, and they basically imposed Islam on us, because 2,500 years before that, we had Zoroastrianism and Cyrus the Great. So Iranians were never Muslims, and that's why Iranians are always in this funny predicament in the Middle East, that they don't quite fit in, because they're not Arabs, they're Persians. They have their own religion, and that's why, as I said, in this war, they usually, even the people within Iran, and if you look at, for example, the stadiums, because the Islamic Republic tries to push this Palestinian, and in the stadiums, when they, at halftime, they try to do a minute silence and people start booing and they start saying, shove the Palestinian flag up your, and it's just funny to me that the Islamic Republic of Iran has failed to brainwash its own citizens, and Iranians are wise, and they have a very special perspective on the situation. Because I feel like 95% of people, they support Palestine, and they see the dead kids, and I feel sorry for the dead kids and the women. But Israel is fighting a dangerous ideology.
Every war, women and children are
exactly. But what they don't talk about, that Iran and Saudi Arabia are fighting a war in Yemen, where 500,000 people have died, 10 times as many as people that have died in Palestine. No one talks about that.
No.
There is a genocide going on in Congo at the moment. No one talks about that. And at the same time, I just don't see any reason for Israel to commit genocide and apartheid. There's no such thing.
There are, you should quite rightly say, there are Iranians and there are Palestinians who live quite happily and quite contentedly within Israel.
Yeah.
And a lot of Israel is trying to bring peace. It's, it just is such a mixed up situation. And I've had a lot of people in the studio, some I end up getting very angry with, because I want to have a calm discussion about why on earth have these, and Hamas is a minority. It's because of the Iranian backing that is keeping this going.
Yeah.
And if people don't realise that they go into hospitals and schools and set up their bases there and hold patients in hospitals and children in schools as hostages.
They've got that here as well. I mean, they've got secret bases, the Iranian Republican Guard. And the other day...
Have they?
Yeah, there was some Iranian... This is in Brent, in our own country. There were some protesters outside. Some guys in black ran out of this house, beat the crap out of them. One guy's still paralysed. There was grabbing at a woman's breasts. The police have been told in Brent, and then no one's. It's all clearly. They're all visually identifiable. The police have done nothing in Brent. Why are they not doing anything? Have they been infiltrated? I can't see what's Mark Rowley doing about this.
I mean, let me just make a point that all religion to me, I mean, if you want to go back in the history of Christianity to the Crusades, then we can find some very brutal things. So it's all religion. At the moment, Islam seems to be in a situation where they feel they are in a position to take over a lot of countries.
Yeah, but what about this point about
Just
Brent
in-
police
yeah, all
not
right,
coming
all
out
right.
and sorting this out?
I don't know anything about that, so I'm not prepared to talk
They
about
came
it.
out of house
I'll-
and beat the crap
be
out of
quiet
people.
now.
I'll address all the issues that you just said. So first of all, Islam hasn't gone through its own age of enlightenment and own age of renaissance. And Christianity, 200 or 300 years ago, went through its own age of renaissance where they managed to separate church and state. Because you're right, the church committed a lot of atrocities. But you shouldn't also forget that Islam is a deeply political religion and it seeks to govern, and there's a lot of call to actions in Islam. I'm not religious like yourself. I used to be a Muslim like 10 years ago, then I became an atheist, but now I'm more spiritual.
Do you find it difficult? Because people will look at you and say,
Yeah.
you're a Muslim.
Apostate
People
as well.
will look
Yeah.
at me and say, you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
It's just
both admit
labels.
we're neither.
Yeah, but no, look, I'm a spiritual person. I believe that
Me too.
you're not a drop in the ocean, you're ocean in a drop. You have God inside of you, and I think all religions are just a perspective throughout history on spirituality. And back to your point about the Iranians in Brent, yeah, I think we have a two-tier policing system in this country where they ignore Islamism and they go after people that are actually patriotic.
But is it more nefarious than that? Because that area
Yeah.
does have, maybe they have been
Yeah.
infiltrated.
No, but they have been, and I
Some
think,
of the bosses
yeah.
there might have
And
leanings.
look, we have Hamas leaders that are living in council estates in Harrow.
I know.
And I just don't understand that. And I just, for the life of me, I don't understand. These people that support the Islamic Republic of Iran, I don't know why they are in this country. Like, if you love the Islamic Republic of Iran, just go back to your country. And I feel like the police
But
should be a lot firmer.
they're trying to kidnap people. I know Maya Tuzi, some Iranian agents attacked him. They're operating like the Russians in this country and America.
This country needs to be a lot more firmer.
Is it because we have a mayor in charge of the police in the capital city who seems to have conned the police into thinking if there's somebody demonstrating and they have a dark skin, you must leave them alone, otherwise you're going to be called racist?
Yeah, probably.
When are we going to? We're getting more racist in many ways now than we've been for years.
Well, that led to millions of working class girls getting raped all over the
exactly.
country. Millions of rapes.
People that play identity politics are actually the most racist people.
How do
And I
we
think
solve this?
dialogue and saying the truth, and we shouldn't be scared to speak the truth. And people like Sadiq Khan, they always hide behind the Islamophobia, and Dan Abbott, these people, we should just say the truth. And I feel like people, especially from my background, because I'm not necessarily white, but when I come out and say certain things, it's very important that we have dialogue and we have individuals like me that come and say the truth.
It's important, like when Suella Braverman came out and Priti Patel, it's important people, with a darker skin come out and say these things.
I don't look at it in terms of skin. I just
No, but
think
you'll get labelled racist if you're white and say it.
But that's what we need to change. And as I said, people that play identity politics are the most racist people. People that are black and they always scream racism, they're the ones that are racist because they see everything through the prism of race.
Exactly.
Are you putting yourself in a very dangerous position?
I don't think so. I mean, people, my family members or my friends, they tell me to worry. I'm not worried at all. I feel like I'm doing a great job so far because I just only started my page like in January and already I've got like a big following.
What do you do normally?
So I do many different things. I used to be a teacher in a school last year, and I'm just doing this at the moment full time. And I've done many different jobs. I've worked in marketing and finance and sports.
But you believe this is something that is necessary and has to be brought.
Yeah.
And I do too. I believe this whole business, not every war is caused by religion, not every war, but very many of them. And unfortunately, they seem to get more and more violent as it goes on.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to identity politics. And I feel like the reason why the Palestine-Israel conflict is so big is because people see Jews are killing Muslims, but they also ignore the fact that Bashar al-Assad killed 1 million Syrian Muslims, but because it was Muslims killing other Muslims,
and they forget about the Gazans who don't really want to be subjugated by Hamas. So they're helping Hamas subjugate these innocent Gazans who want them out.
Exactly, and I feel like fundamentally it was all a chess move by Iran.
Absolutely.
They didn't want the Abraham Accord signed, and they basically funded Hamas.
And the media fall for it all.
Yeah, exactly, and they managed to flip the script. It should be the Israelis that say, oh, we're the victims, but now everyone thinks it's the Palestinians are the victims. And as I said, there is no benefit for Israel to go and attack Gaza and kill people and, this whole genocide and apartheid. I don't understand what Israel has to gain from it.
The genocide and apartheid is the opposite. They carried out the genocide, Hamas. The apartheid is every Arab country around there where, the Jews have all been disappeared and Christians. That's where
they're the ones that are
glass. That's how they operate.
Yeah, they are the ones that are the genocidal, and that's why they say it's river to the sea. They believe that Israel
Joseph Goebbels said, always accuse your enemy of what you're guilty of.
Exactly.
And that just causes
projection.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me that Palestinian people have got to be given a state. They've got to be given something proper to call home. The Israeli settlers who go and infiltrate in and cause a lot of problems have got to be stopped, and they were saying they were stopping that.
Well, they took them all out of Gaza, didn't
But
they?
and the West Bank probably as well. And okay, they've kept bits since the 6-day war, which your phone is making a noise.
No, that's yours, isn't it?
Okay. Is it always mine? It's because I have alarms on it and you can't shut them off. But anyway, the fact is...
You just pressed the little silence.
Right. The fact is that religion is now being used by so many people across the world.
Exactly.
And organisations like the United Nations, who should know better, are falling for it.
Yeah, and I think organizations such as the United Nations have become obsolete.
Yeah, well, most of them are undemocratic nations. They were on the October the 7th raids.
Yeah.
They kept hostages in their lofts.
Exactly.
They are the terrorists, the
And
UN.
they held a minute silence for Ibrahim Raisi, the president of Iran. The guy was known for the butcher of Tehran.
Yeah,
He
the
killed
ICC.
thousands of people, and they're holding a minute silence for
International
terrorists.
Criminal Court, politicised.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so did Norway recognise them, I think, and or did the same
Loads
thing,
of
and so did
countries have.
Spain.
Yeah.
Ireland.
Why?
I don't understand why, because this guy has killed thousands and thousands of Iranians, and he's oppressed, and he's, you know, leader of a country that's causing all this instability. And yeah, I just think that ideologies are clashing at this moment in time, and we're becoming very divided, unfortunately.
Because as soon as I say anything that may be construed as saying, well, you know, I don't think Israel have committed genocide. I don't think they, and then I'll be trolled, which is fine. I quite like it. That's no problem. Or we get callers or guests who'll come on who say, you are a genocide enabler. How dare you? And what worries me is these people going on demonstrations and marches are incredibly ignorant.
Well, they might just be evil, and you know.
No, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. I think the ignorance. Well, we had a woman in the other day, and I said, "What was happening
She
on
was
Thursday, 6th of June?" She had no idea what D-Day was and why
It's a
we
fashion
were.
thing, isn't it? A lot of these.
Yeah,
kids.
I feel like this woke mentality has took over, and we have the unholy marriage of woke leftism and Islamism together, and they've started this movement. And it's funny because that's the same thing that actually happened in Iran.
Yeah.
It was like a neo-Marxist and the Islamists that
bring down
overthrew
the
the Shah.
system.
And funnily enough, the Muslims ended up killing all the neo-Marxists.
Yeah, that's what happens.
So that's the thing. Islam or Muslims, they use you know, impressionable young
Well, they've already
wokies
operated. They've already
and-
7/7, the Borough Market, the
Yeah.
Manchester. These are all the same people.
Yeah, but it's funny too because Islam is a very right-wing religion. You know, it's very strict and conservative. So I just find it quite strange. But at the same time, people are naive. As I said, Iranians have a unique perspective on this because Islamic Republic of Iran has ruined Iran, and they're basically sending funds to Hamas and Hezbollah and Houthis whilst Iranians are starving. We're one of the richest countries in the world, and that's why Iranians hate the Islamic Republic and they hate these terrorist organizations.
Is there no way that the people of Iran can ever get their country back?
I think they can. Well,
A revolution.
first of all, a revolution, yeah. And the thing is, we had a great opportunity 2 years ago where the whole Mahsa Amini protests. However, I just feel like the opposition to the Iranian government is very weak and they're very divided. We need a strong opposition, first of all, and hopefully one day I'll be part of that opposition. Second thing is that we need international support. And people like the international community didn't support us 2 years ago for the Mahsa. We need the support of the British.
Well, America's
and then-
supporting the regime, aren't they?
yeah, the thing is, I feel like they are scared because they don't want another unstable country in the Middle East. So that's why they were like, the devil you know is better than the devil that you don't know. But I disagree fundamentally. I feel like Iran is an absolute gold mine if it opens up. It's the biggest economic opportunity in the world. I truly believe that Iran should have been Dubai times 1,000.
Yes,
You know?
yes.
And you worked in Tehran, you said before.
No, friend of mine worked
Oh,
in
friend
Tehran
of-
under
friend,
the
okay.
Shah.
Never told me
Yeah.
you weren't working in Tehran.
I
Kept
never
that
worked
very
in
quiet.
Tehran. I just said I didn't.
Okay.
You deny
it
But-
is a...
Can I just say something else? There's also another thing happening here, that we have the axis of evil between Russia, China, and Iran. And now Iran is owned by China after Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal. And which he done the right thing. I'm a big fan of Trump. I feel like he done the right thing because when Trump was in power, the Islamic Republic was very close to
It was a lot more
collapsing.
stable, the world. when
The
he
world was a
there.
lot
Yeah.
stable, and also the Islamic Republic was in a very defensive position and scared
And
because they
Putin.
killed Soleimani, and then as soon as Biden comes,
Yeah.
he gives them money, and all of a sudden they get emboldened. So the only way for the Middle East to reach peace is for the Islamic Republic of Iran to collapse and for Saudi Arabia to sign the Abraham Accords to normalize relations with Israel. Yeah.
I think I think the future could be much, much better if people actually listen and stop. I mean, some of these hate marches at the weekends worry me slightly. That unless they are controlled, and as soon as we start to do that, people say, "Oh, freedom of speech is going in the United Kingdom." It isn't, because you couldn't get away with saying things like this in
but
Iran
people like you who go and protest are arrested, which is a disgrace. So you can't counter.
No, I
protesting
agree.
language, so they should be stopped.
So we have a rise in Islamism in this country, and that really worries me, you know, and we should be able to criticize bad ideas. But people don't, because they're like, oh, you're Islamophobic. But there are certain parts of Islam that have no place in any society, and even countries such as Saudi Arabia have realized that. They're like, we can't have
But if
Sharia
the police can't allow counter-protests and they can't allow the march, it's proving it's a violent process.
Why would, sorry, just to reiterate, why on earth would all these younger people want to go along and follow a religion or get drawn into a religion where women have to be at the back, have to do exactly as they're told, have to be completely covered. Any people who are gay will possibly be executed.
Queers for Palestine.
You know,
it's crazy.
Exactly.
Chickens for KFC.
I mean, it just, it's just ridiculous. Yet the media seems to be frightened of actually coming out and saying some of these things. I was absolutely amazed today when watching some news, obviously watch it on different channels from time to time on the BBC, when the 4 hostages that were rescued, and the BBC was saying quite often, released. Now, released and rescued are 2 entirely different things. And then going back to give out all the numbers that have come from the Hamas run,
which has been now shown to be incorrect, and they're still quoting it.
Yeah, I'm slightly worried about the mainstream media in this country.
Well, they're bent, aren't they? They're corrupt.
And what you say, woke has just come right
exactly, and exactly, wokeism and left-wingism has hijacked our institutions, all the way from universities to our mainstream media, such as BBC, ITV, and they're basically taking advantage of this opportunity, and that's why it's very important, like channels such as Talk TV, GB News, or any like individuals like me to come and speak the truth. And your point about one of my friends, Niak Gorbani, he was holding a sign, Hamas or terrorists.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah, he's been on here.
Instead of he's been on here, right? And he was the one that got arrested.
Yes.
And
Twice
when people were attacking him, and I just found it ridiculous. And we really need to wake up in this country.
They're actually throwing things at him.
Yeah, that's why we really need to wake up in this country, and we need to challenge bad ideas. And these young, impressionable people, the problem is that in the Western world, I feel like some certain traditional values have been eroded because of wokeism. Yeah? And Islam or religion brings these traditional values back. So maybe that's why it's attractive. But we can have our own values without religion. Yeah. You know? And
it's become a youth culture.
Right,
as well,
listen, what I'd like to do, and I've just been thinking about it now, do you want to stay on for a little bit?
Sure.
And take some calls?
Sure.
If anybody would like to talk about this subject and about religion now interfering with politics and the fact that the people demonstrating on the streets at the weekend have got it all wrong. And from Eunice here, who is Iranian and obviously knows better than lots of us, who isn't a Muslim, who isn't a Christian, who isn't infected by religion. Can you say that's a bit much, isn't it? You're infected by religion, aren't you?
Very infected,
So maybe I shouldn't say things like that. Come and tell me. 0344 499 1000. See you after this.
Just call it
religion is an organisation that wants to control people, basically. Isn't
exactly.
It?
I feel like religion is oppression. Spirituality is free.
Yeah, well, not huge religion.
So you're going to have your own God, but not call it religion. Just call it
religion is an organisation that wants to control people, basically.
Exactly. I feel like religion is oppression. Spirituality is freedom.
And if we could get rid of it, we could much more easily sort out the problems of the Middle East.
Yeah, 100%.
I was going to be talking to a Just Stop Oil protester at the moment, and very sadly, the protester...
They ran out of petrol.
The protester has run out of money because she's been locked up or arrested 14 times or something like that. And she's now got fines up to nearly £1,000 and she can't afford it. So she wanted to come on here and ask people if they'd like to pay it. I'd like to see that, actually. So if Stephanie Morosi...
She can't get work because of all her arrests, £900 fines.
So we're trying to get hold of you, but at the moment we're going to carry on
That's
doing
quite
this.
good value for 14 arrests, £900.
Yeah. James in Coventry, good evening. Hi, your question. Eunice is here.
I wanted to know if he looks upon these people in Palestine and in these Muslim countries, because I got a friend and he looks upon them as tribes of people. He's a Muslim, and he said even if there was no Israelis there, they would be killing each other because they all have different ideas about the country. What do you think about that?
Just before you answer, Eunice, let me just throw something. You know how balanced I like to be. But when the Church of England was first started, the amount of trouble between the Church of England and the Catholics, which was considered to be the Christian religion, was unbelievable. And the things they did to each other was disgusting. So this is something new and something not just from one religion. We have moved on, but Islam is, I think, 800 years younger than Christianity.
Exactly. So first of all, there is no such thing as Palestine. It was the British mandate for Palestine in 1945. People that live in Gaza are actually originally Egyptian, like genetically, and people that live in the West Bank are actually Jordanian, and majority of them have a Jordanian birth certificate. And it's
Was
true.
there a Palestine?
A British mandate.
Look, the thing, it was a British mandate, but at the end of the day, Israel existed 2,000 years before even Islam.
There was no country of Palestine.
Yeah, exactly. And Palestine was actually just a village, which we call Palestine. It was just a village. That
The
was
Romans called it that. To wipe out the Jewish history.
Exactly. And Israel was conquered many times by the Romans, by Alexander the Great, by the Persians. But it was actually the Arab conquest that actually pushed the Jews out of the land. But still 30% remain Jewish. And to your second point, you're right. Because we have Muslims killing each other all the time. We have the conflicts between Shiites and Sunnis. But at the same time, I find it very ironic because Islamic Republic of Iran is a Shiite entity. And they support Hamas, which is a Sunni entity, and it's just they're just helping each other in a common enemy, which is the Jews.
Is it ultimately money? Because the guys at the top are billionaires, so ultimately they're using nationalism as a way for them.
Exactly, and they don't believe Israel should exist. And the guy that is the leader of Hamas, he has a net worth of $6 billion, and that $6 billion was given to him by the international community.
We've given it our taxes,
to rebuild Gaza, and instead of spending that money to rebuild Gaza, he went and built tunnels, and he lives in Qatar in a 5-star hotel, and his sons have a private jet.
There's 3 very rich leaders, or 4, and then there's the other leaders who are the fighters in Gaza who are nutcases, and sort of they work in sort of tandem with each other, don't they?
Yeah. They sacrifice their own people.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel sorry for the plight of the Palestinians, but they're paying the sins of their forefathers.
They're scared to fight against them.
Exactly.
They'll get
And
called
look, 50% of the Palestinians are under 18, so they weren't even born when Hamas took over, and they're paying the price for their look, martyrdom in Islam is like the biggest achievement. Like if you're a martyr.
But why do they all cry then when people, why do they all cry when people are killed?
It's a lie. If martyrdom was such a, glorious thing, why don't you just go and fight yourself? Why are you hiding in Qatar?
And why cry when children are killed? You go, oh, they're martyred. Because they don't really believe it.
It's a sick
So
ideology.
James, hopefully that answers a couple of questions. You're right, that there would be argumentation between, and it is, in different parts of the world, still different Christian are arguing with each other.
In Scotland they have it, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, Protestant and Catholic.
Rangers, Celtic.
Yeah, it's religion is a nasty, nasty thing when they put up these ideas that if you don't do this or if you don't do that, you will burn forever in hell. I mean, look at that nutter who rings me occasionally.
Ken.
Yeah, and says
one of them's got to be right though.
No, one of you hasn't got to be right.
I think
it's like a raffle.
Religion. Back in the day, there was no CCTVs, there was no police, and religion was a way to control people. And I'm not saying there are certain things in religion that are correct. In the Bible, like you should understand religion metaphorically and not literally. There's a reason why these stories lasted thousands of years. And I feel like you can learn from all religion, but you shouldn't put yourself in a box. So I'm a spiritual person. I try to learn from all religions, and I live my life as though there is.
But religions preach God should judge, and then they judge themselves. You know what I mean?
Let's take some more calls, Guy. Joe's in Cheshire. Joe, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, James. Good evening, Ash. I'd just like to say we're all judged on or remembered for what we say. Now, Israel, it's a fact, have made their paradise out of the desert, haven't they?
Well, they've made the desert blue.
They really have, yeah. And now you get these balloons you had on the other week saying that Israel are using dumb bombs and there's no control over them. I don't know where you get some of your gas.
I know yesterday guest said carpet bombing, which just isn't happening. Genocide isn't happening.
Well, she was another one that wants committing. A dumb bomb is a bomb that's released from the aircraft that doesn't use its own information and avionics. It uses the plane's computer aviation information. They're not just lobbed out.
Well, the Russians are doing that in Syria, but no, they don't know protests against that. They're throwing dumb
No,
bombs.
they won't. I mean,
barrel
Manchester
bombs.
City Council, where I am, they've had a Palestinian mothers movement for some years. Now, God knows what they're up to, subsidised by obviously the taxpayers. I've never heard a guest, and you may want to ask your guest, you go, now, never heard a supporter of Hamas without them going into the tirade and the rant. No actual logical explanation.
I haven't given up on hoping to get somebody to talk to me from that terrorist organisation, or who support, like all those thousands of people who go on marches at the weekend, who support a terrorist organisation.
But they'll never admit it because they're ashamed of it.
But you're right, Joe. We from time to time they'll come on and talk, and as soon as I say, so are you prepared to admit Hamas are a terrorist organisation? They start shouting and yelling.
75 years of this and that. That's what they're going on.
You know.
Yeah.
But
and the politics involved with it, you know, people over here just quoting absolute rubbish, both on both sides. Like you just quite rightly say, we just want peace.
Yeah.
And you're being condemned for it.
I want peace, and I want people to live, and I don't, you know, life is difficult enough as it is for all of us. Joe, thanks for that. Let's talk to Guy in London. Guy, good evening.
Hi, good evening, James. Good evening, Ash. And I can't remember your name, but thank you very much. Eunice, thank you very much. It's great to hear you guys talk. I just wanted to say that I was at the rallies, the pro-Palestinian rallies, and I was appalled, actually, because you had terrorist organisations, literal terrorist organisations like the PFLP, with their flags and banners, and people standing around with their, you know, promoting them. And you had pro-Hamas people there, obviously, and it was on Whitehall, outside the Downing Street. And the police were doing nothing about it. Absolutely nothing.
So you went there on their side. So what did you do? Did you stop going, or what did you say? Anything?
No, I didn't go on their side. I just wanted to see what was going on with my own eyes.
Right.
That's why I went. I wanted to see what was going on in my own eyes. And when I when I spoke to people and I said to them, "Okay, Palestinian people, we need to take care of them. But what about Hamas? Do you like want to stop Hamas?" You wouldn't believe it. The average Joe Blogs, you know, you think he's a chemist or something, was really supporting them. They were so aggressive. You can't understand how aggressive they are when you say anything about them. They really think they're freedom fighters, and it's much more widespread than we can imagine in London. And I don't know about the rest of the country, but it's so widespread.
Did you think it came ultimately from anti-Semitism or anti-Western? Where does it come from, the hate?
Jihad.
Yeah, but where does that come from, really? They just want to take over everywhere.
Islam. It's
Why do you think, Guy?
But not the socialist.
Hang on, just a minute.
Guys,
why do you think, Guy? These people, a lot of them are students. A lot of them are at an age when they're probably still in some kind of education. A lot of them don't have very much life experience or
A lot of them aren't Muslims. So
just
they don't
one
want
moment.
Islamism.
Just a minute.
Well,
or I
well,
will
it's
send
just
you
doesn't
out.
make-
Just a
doesn't make
minute.
sense.
I'm sorry, Eunice, but he is a pain in the backside. The fact is, how come some of these presumably intelligent young people are being brainwashed in this way? Why and how? What do you think, Guy?
I think it's because of the education system in the academia and the socialist ideologies and communist ideologies, and the idea that I don't really understand about woke and whatnot, but I just know that there's a shift in understanding, looking at the world through a white.
But they
man's
don't want
eyes.
jihad, the wokists, do they?
All right,
No,
guys,
that's
we've got to take.
That's what I said. That's what I want for you guys. That's what I said to the guy in the socialist stall. I said, "Have you got a kafir?" And he said to me, "No." I said, "You're going to need one by the end of this rally." But anyway,
Can I just say
guys,
something
thank
quickly?
you very much.
Guy, thank you very much. We're going to take a break in a second. Just first, let me have the last word with Eunice, and then.
So I read a study that actually the students here and Muslims born in this country are actually more extreme than the Muslims born in Pakistan and Afghanistan. I think part of the reason is they haven't seen it with their own eyes what Islam can do to a country.
And they compensate for not living there.
Exactly. And they're brainwashed and they think they're in the wrong way.
Eunice, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Hope we can get you on the programme again sometime in the future. Thank you, guys. Call us and we'll take a couple of calls up to the news right after this.